Imagine living in a place where one moment the land is dry and cracked with extreme heat, and where the trees and plants struggle to survive. The next moment, weeks after, extreme torrential rain comes without warning, flooding homes, washing away roads, and those same dry fields become swampland. I grew up in Guyana coastland, nestled between the great Atlantic Ocean and the vast Amazon rainforest, where I experienced these extreme climate events firsthand, which became more frequent, more intense over time. Our infrastructure built under predictable circumstances and stable conditions were unable to cope with these extremes. Roads and bridges and our drainage system were under immense pressure from climate impact. But what if we can turn these problems into solutions, if our infrastructure are built in a manner that complements nature instead of against nature? Where our roads soak up the rain and our communities have more green spaces that nurture the environment and nurture our well-being. If we look back at history, past civilizations, we see that infrastructure were built and met essential needs. Water, food, mobility, security were all met, and these were done in harmony with the environment. Right here in South America, the Incas built vast networks of trails spanning over tens of thousands of kilometers, connecting people and cultures across the Andes. In the Amazon, indigenous communities built complex water systems, raised agricultural lands, managed forest systems, all in harmony with the environment. But somewhere along the way, we shifted. With the rise of the Industrial Revolution and our tools change, our mindset also changed. We began to build bigger, faster, and more forcefully. We measure progress by speed and scale, but not by sustainability. But what if we can achieve speed, scale, and also sustainability at the same time? Guyana, land is covered by 85% of Amazon rainforest. 90% of the people live on the coastland, which is protected by sea defenses and which is constantly threatened by waves hitting against those sea defenses. The hard concrete infrastructure is what protects waves and protect the land and people. I, as an engineer, was involved in 2 projects at one time where we were building the seawall, and we were also at that time in Guyana restoring one of the largest mangrove effort undertaking to restore mangrove in Guyana. Though these were implemented and designed separately, the project happened to be in the same locations. We build sea defenses and we restore mangroves, which were done in parallel in similar locations. And these complement each other. Years later, we see that the once barren lands become mangrove forest. The land that were empty on the shore side has beautiful mangrove trees that were protecting also the seawall and the land. We see that this is a great example of when nature-based solution combined with hard engineering defense can provide sustainable protection, and also it is done at a lower cost. This is a model which we see can be used especially in Guyana, which is rapidly advancing its progress. At this time, Guyana is investing in massive infrastructure. It is important that nature-based solution becomes a part of the infrastructure itself. As a civil engineer, we design hard engineering infrastructure without thinking about the plants and nature. But this should not be. It is critical that the model for infrastructure ensure that nature-based solution becomes a core component of the infrastructure and not as an add-on. This lesson is critical for moving forward. The knowledge I gain and experience on coastal defense and nature-based solution took me into a faraway land. In East Timor, on the opposite side of the globe, I experienced the same reality. Climate change, but much more severe. The country faced a profound dilemma, investing in new infrastructure while protecting its existing roads, bridges, water supply system, and other infrastructure that were being affected by landslides and floods. I take on the role to climate-proof infrastructure in roads, water supply, buildings, and also irrigation schemes. The roads were being washed away. Traditional and local knowledge were critical in working with the communities in implementing these projects. I turned to the landscape, and to climate-proof the infrastructure, we use nature-based solution, applying soil bioengineering techniques to stabilize the soil. We use agroforestry and reforestation measures to protect the landscape while engaging local communities. But perhaps the most important part was engaging local communities. Traditional knowledge of the weather and the land were perhaps one of the most critical elements for the success of these projects. And while at the same time they were climate resilient, they were also cost effective and over time cheaper. But this problem is not unique to one country. Across the world today, small island development states and least developed countries are experiencing this reality. Even here in the Amazon region, this is the reality. Countries are faced with the urgent need to invest in infrastructure, invest and rapidly grow. But if we do so without thinking of the environment, we risk solving today's problem, but creating tomorrow's crisis. But how do countries achieve these bold ambitions when they simply do not have the fiscal space or the resources to do so, to build new infrastructure and invest, when at the same time climate change, on the other hand, is rapidly putting existing assets at risk? And this is where leadership and innovation comes in. Last year in Barbados, I worked with the government and partners to achieve the world's first debt swap for climate-resilient infrastructure, a project that will generate savings by swapping its existing debt to finance the construction of the wastewater treatment plant. A single project that will transform the country. It will stop sewage from being discharged into the ocean, protects the country's largest wetland, generate reclaimed water that will be piped to farmers to grow more local foods and replenish depleting aquifers. The project would also generate clean energy from solar. These are all transformative actions, one single project. One project that will have massive ripple effects across the country and the sectors. And this is what transformation is about. Across the world, we see that countries are stepping up. They are investing in practical and innovative solutions. They are investing in resilient infrastructure, nature-based solution, ecosystem-based adaptation, while at the same time empowering local communities. From Guyana's living seawall, nurtured by mangroves, to Timor-Leste vegetated slopes, we see that it is possible to integrate nature-based solution in modern engineering designs. But we have to do so sustainably. With the vast need to invest in infrastructure, the urgent gap, the climate crisis, and also the need for inclusive development, it calls for bold and transformative action. But we cannot do so at the risk of conquering nature. We need to do so by also taking nature into consideration. So whether you are a policymaker making bold decisions for the next agenda, or an investor investing in what gets built, or a student of the world learning from nature, let's ask ourselves, what am I building? And how it is connected to nature, to people, and to future generations. Nature and infrastructure should not be divided. There should not be a line between nature and infrastructure. It should be a bond where people, planet, and prosperity rise together. Thank you.